Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. I am back in the kitchen. I have a lot of peppers that I need to take care of. If I don't do this now, I'm going to lose what I have from the garden. We've had storms, sickness, life, just sometimes this stuff gets pushed aside and I just can't get to it. And so I am bound and determined today to get some of my canning and food preservation done. I've already started my aji amarillo peppers in the dehydrator to get those going because those are going to take about 10 hours. And then what I'm also going to be working on is making the Cowboy candy. So I have a big bowl of peppers to see how many we can get. I'm thinking just a single batch, but we'll see once I get these all cut what's going to happen. And then I think I have a ton of these little snacking peppers. I think what I'm going to do, because that's way more than I can eat in one sitting, is I'm going to go ahead and just I'm going to roast them and then put them in the freezer, so that way I can add these to other things in the future, because right now it's just I can't eat that many peppers and not everyone in the house does. So I don't have much. Then we have tomatoes left. We've had so much rain, it's been crazy. I do have some poblanos. I've got okra. I'm not going to do the okra in this video just because you guys have seen that already, how I do it. I will do that off camera and take care of that. Same thing with the poblano peppers. It's just going to be slicing and freezing, or dicing and freezing and put them in the freezer like I did. If you haven't seen that other video, I will go ahead and link it below. But let's get going on the Cowboy candy, because I want to get this done. I do have, as you can see, my water bath canner in the back. I also want to make some blackberry jam, and so we'll get to that in a little bit, but let's knock these peppers out because this is what's going to take the longest time, just because of all the cutting that needs to be done. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just finishing up weighing these real quick to kind of see. It's definitely just going to be a single recipe. I'm just a touch short of 3 pounds, which is what the recipe calls for, but I may have more outside in my garden, so we'll check those just a little bit. So I'm going to put all the peppers back in here. But this is the recipe that I have. I will link it below. I found this online. This has been tried and true. I have done this for many, many years, and I really like it. It just calls for your jalapeños, apple cider vinegar, sugar, turmeric, celery seed, granulated garlic, and cayenne pepper, and that is it. So really super easy. So I'm going to get my gloves and start slicing this stuff up. So I got the 3 pounds. We actually had some that were ready on the plant, so my daughter went ahead and picked them. And so this is what 3 pounds of sliced jalapenos is going to look like. And so before I get this going, I want to go ahead and finish prepping the rest of my peppers, excuse me. So what I've already done is dice up. These are going to go into the freezer. And so what I'm working on now is the snacking peppers. That big bowl is done. So what I've got is I've got 2 bowls full of peppers. Not that it really matters, but they're both, if you switch it out, they're both full. So I'm going to vacuum seal these, get these in the freezer to enjoy later. But for now, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then we're going to go ahead and put together the Cowboy candy so I can show you guys finally how I do this, so that way you guys can make it as well. To my stainless steel pot, I'm going to go ahead and add in 6 cups of granulated sugar. I'm also going to add in half a teaspoon of turmeric. I'm going to add in 3 teaspoons of garlic. And then I'm also going to be adding in a half teaspoon of celery seed and 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. In addition to that, I'm also going to be adding in 2 cups of apple cider vinegar. You want to make sure that you shake it up, especially if you have the apple cider vinegar that has the mother in it, because that's the best part, and it does settle to the bottom of your bottle, no matter what size bottle you have. So you want to give this a good stir, make sure everything is incorporated, and then move on to the next step. Okay, so now that all of the ingredients are in the pot, we're going to turn it on high and we're going to bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to lower it and simmer it for 5 minutes. After that, that's when we're going to add the jalapenos. So I'm going to let this start to boil, and then we'll go from there. The water bath is almost ready, so I was trying to time this right so that way I don't lose any water in there, and these don't sit for longer than they need to before they go into the jar. So we're going to go ahead and let it boil and then get going on it. Okay, so once it comes to a boil like this, you're going to turn it down and set a timer for 5 minutes and let it simmer for 5 minutes just like this. 5 minutes. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in, carefully try to add in all the jalapenos without losing any. Go ahead. I'm just going to stir them just a touch. They will start to soften and break down, and so the volume will decrease slightly. Missed a couple. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to give this a good stir, try to get all of these peppers into the liquid, and I'm going to turn it up on high. What I want to do is bring this to a raging boil, which is what it looked like before we put it on simmer. So again, this will cook down some, and then it all should be fine. And keep in mind too that it's also going to get water bath, so that will cook it as well. I don't know if you guys can see this on camera or not. You can see like really bright green versus the jalapenos cooking, so they're starting to mellow out a little bit. This is why I say don't worry too much about the volume when you put it in. As they begin to cook down, we're still waiting it to come to a hard boil, but as you can see, they're fitting in the liquid so much better, and they will continue as the bright green ones begin to get down in there and cook while we wait for this to come to a raging boil. Once it does, we're going to turn it down low again, simmer for 4 minutes, and then we are ready to go ahead and put them in the jars and get them canned. Okay, so this is the raging boil that we're looking for. As you can see, you're really starting to see it come up over the peppers, and so now I'm going to turn it down on low and set the timer for 4 minutes and let it simmer, and then we will be ready to get these into the jars. Okay, so it's been 4 minutes, and so let's get this into the jars. It's time to go ahead and get everything into the jars. I pulled out 8. The recipe says 4 to 6 half-pint jars. I like to do just the half-pint, just because we don't use as many at one time, and so this works for us. You could always do these in pint size, but I prefer the half-pint jars. So we're going to see if we fill up just 6, do we fill up 8, and I have more jars in the oven if I need them. The reason why I'm going to pack a bit more into the jar is just because I have some floating in the liquid, but not enough to actually fill up another whole jar. So I'm just going to take what I've got in here, try to grab again just the jalapenos as much as I can to fill in the gaps, and then we'll pour the liquid. Now, the recipe will always tell you as well, by the time you get done, you're going to have more liquid left in the pot than what you'll need for canning the jalapenos. And you can just take this liquid and you can just put it in another jar, and you can can it for the same amount of time that you're going to do these peppers, and then you can use it to baste chicken and things like that when you're grilling. And so she even says potato salad. I don't know about putting in potato salad. I've never done it, so I can't speak to whether or not that's a good idea or not. But it's just something she has in a recipe, and then again, I will link that recipe down below so you guys can see it. But I've been making this for, oh goodness, 4, 5 or 6 years now. So for a while. So, and this is one of my favorites, and once I have it in stock, we will actually use it quite often when we have friends over for dinner or when the holidays get here, because it is definitely a favorite. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get the liquid in here, making sure I leave that 1-inch headspace, and then we'll go from there. So I definitely have still lots of liquid left. And then there are a few jalapenos floating in here. That always happens to me. Because again, it's not enough to fill another jar, but then still have some in there. When I load them in, I like to do opposite sides, just to try to keep them somewhat balanced in there. That way they don't fall over, but sometimes inevitably they just still. I'm just going to go ahead and get it lowered in. The water's already boiling, so I'm going to lower it in. You just want to make sure you've got a good, 2 inches above the jars, and then since it's already boiling, we put the lid on it. Okay, and I don't know, let's see, you guys probably can't see that. See how it's boiling? This is what you want it, you want it to be boiling, and then put your lid on, and then start the timer. And so we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes and let this process. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. So what I've done is I've turned off the heat, and I'm going to leave the lid on and set the timer for 5 more minutes. This just finishes the processing time. Once I'm done, I'm going to take the lid off, remove everything, place it over here, and then we're going to get going on the jam. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make blackberry jam that's going to be shelf stable. So I'm going to do a cooked jam. We have these blackberries. They're still just a touch frozen. That we got last year actually from Costco. They had them for I think $2 for a big container. They were trying to get rid of them. They had a huge stack, so we bought a bunch. We didn't use them like we initially intended, so I want to get these out. I want to do something with them. It's something that we could use if we turn it into jam, then we can add it to a variety of different things. And so we're going to see the recipe. Let me grab that. It's just the Sure Gel recipe. You can find it in any box. The only other cooked jam I've done is the blueberry lemon. I'll link that down below so you guys can check that out if you haven't. And so I think what I'm going to do is just puree the blackberries to put them in here. So we're going to kind of see if we have enough to make a full recipe. If not, what I do have is some fresh blueberries that were in our yard that we were growing, and so I can add that to the blackberry just to kind of get to the correct measurement. So we're going to see when I puree all these if I can get 5 cups of berries. So we're going to go ahead and try that while we're waiting on the Cowboy candy to finish up. I absolutely could pull out my much larger food processor, but I'm just going to stick with my small one here just because it'll allow me to move that to do just one bag at a time, just to keep an eye on the measurement. And so now if I could get a double recipe, that'd be great, but I don't really feel like I'm going to have 10 cups of fruit. But you never know. Sometimes looks can be deceiving, so I'm going to see what happens here. Trying to decide is how smooth do I want it. Now usually when I do jam or jelly, actually I do freezer jam because it has more of a fresh fruit taste. I feel like that's good. I feel like that would make, that consistency would make a really good jam. I'm going to give it one more go though. Oop. I like to leave some chunks of fruit. Now, I know that you can put this through a sieve and get all the seeds out. I'm not going to really worry about that because you can buy seeded or seedless jam in the store. So we're just going to skip that step, puree it, excuse me, and see how far we can get with it and whether or not we need to add in our blueberries to kind of give us the amount that we need. Okay, so I heard the timer for the Cowboy candy. Let me grab that. Now that this is done, I'm just going to take the lid off. Let's pull the jars out. And I could already hear one popping, which is a good sign. So pull this out. Now this is the liquid that you can use as a braising liquid that you could enjoy on a variety of different things. Let's see if I can. Oh, I always manage to knock one over when I do this. And then there is the jalapeno. Let's see, put it back in the light a little bit. Jalapeno candy. Or, I'm sorry, the Cowboy candy. And so we're going to go ahead and move all of this over here. And I've just got a rack sitting down. I'll show you guys in just a moment. Again, with my dehydrator in the kitchen right where I work. I'm kind of just working on limited room right now. So I'm putting everything where I possibly can. Okay, so it's all out. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to put more water in here to get it ready for the jam so it can come back up into temperature like we need it. And then you can see here is the Cowboy candy and then of course the braising liquid. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 jars of the Cowboy candy, and then we've got 4 jars, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, of the braising liquid. So, all right, let's get back to the jam. So now that we're back to this, I'm going to go ahead and get all of this processed and, or pureed, I should say, and into the measuring cup that I have, this large one, and we'll see if we can get to 5 cups of crushed berries. All right, let's see. Oh, perfect, beautiful. Only we got exactly 5 cups of berries, which is exactly what we needed for the recipe, which is fantastic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put, let me actually look at the recipe. I'm so used to freezer jam. Let me double check the cooked jam recipe. Okay, all right, so we're going to actually set this aside. We don't need this. I need to get my pot for it, and we're going to put the fruit in the pot. And let me see, do we need lemons? We do not need lemons for this. So let me get my pot, and I'll be right back. So we're going to go ahead and put all 5 cups of the crushed blackberries in here. And again, you can use a sieve to get out some of the seeds or all of them. It's up to you. I'm opting to skip that step just to try this out this way. So we'll see how it goes. So we're going to go ahead and get this onto the stove and get it coming to a boil. And while that's starting to come to a boil, we're going to work on getting the sugar and the pectin together as well. We have the crushed berries on the stove, so I've got it on high. to medium high to bring this to a boil, and I'm going to go get ready the sugar and the pectin for the next step. To my bowl, I'm going to add in 7 cups of sugar, and I know it sounds like a lot, but this is just how the jams call for it. If you want to use something that has less sugar, you will have to get the less sugar pectin that they make. You cannot alter the recipe, the sugar amount. 3, 4. Okay, I lost track. Let me jump it back in here and count again. I'm talking and counting at the same time. So 7 cups of sugar. Six and 7. Okay, the reason why you don't want to cut down the sugar is because the jam won't set. If you want to do a lower sugar jam or jelly, then you have to get Pectin's low sugar box. It's a pink box. I don't ever use it, but it is there, and that's what you're going to want if you want to make this less sugar. I just always leave it as the traditional, just because this is how my great-grandmother made it, and so I just have fond memories of her jam, and that's why I like to do it just like this, and I don't like to change it. So, okay, so I almost messed this up, and I'm glad I read it again, and I do apologize. When you go to get your fruit ready, before you bring it to a boil, you're going to want to add in 1 package of pectin. So let me go ahead and do that now. Again, I'm so used to doing freezer that I want to make something shelf stable, because we have a lot of freezer jam in our freezer already, and so I don't want to keep filling it up, because I want to start making room to do meal prep for grab and go meals, things that'll just make it a touch easier when needed. So I'm going to stir this in. Now, they do say to add in a half a teaspoon of butter or margarine for prevent foaming. I'm not going to do that, because we are going to be water bath canning that, and I don't want to leave butter. Butter does not can properly. You can't do it safely, so we're going to skip that step, and I'm going to turn this on. Alright, now we're going to bring it to a boil. And the boil that we're looking for is going to be a roaring boil that doesn't stop when we stir it. And so once we've added the sugar and it comes to the raging boil again, at that point we're going to go ahead, and if there's any foam on there, skim it off, and then get it ladled into the jars and get it processing in the water bath canner. So this shouldn't take too long to get to. This is actually fairly quickly. Once I start getting going again, I'm starting to remember the blueberry lemon. Again, I don't normally do this, so I just have to kind of keep reminding myself, and I think that that's okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with checking a recipe, making sure, because again, we are making this shelf stable, so I want to make sure that I'm doing it properly so I don't make myself or my family sick. And the one thing you want to make sure that you're doing while you're waiting for it to come to the boil is to continuously stir it. And just make sure that the mixture is getting moved around. This way the pectin doesn't clump up. It has a chance to fully dissolve in the fruit, and then because you definitely don't want to bite into a clump of pectin. Okay, so now the blackberries have reached where they're boiling while stirring. I'm going to go ahead and add in all the sugar. Going to get this stirred in, and then we're going to bring it to the same raging boil that we were looking for right before we added it. You want to make sure you keep stirring it, because that's going to help the sugar to not only dissolve but also to just get dispersed throughout the jam. That's a lot of sugar to go in there, so you want to make sure that it doesn't clump up at all. And then we're just going to let this continue to boil until it comes to that boiling stage where it'll keep boiling even when I'm stirring it. And then after that, we'll go ahead and get it into the jars and get it in the water bath canner, which is starting to boil, so it'll be perfect timing. Okay, so we are starting to boil, so I'm going to set the timer for 1 minute. There we go. And continue to stir while this is boiling for 1 minute. It's been 1 minute, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the heat, get the jars out, and we're going to get this ladled in so we can get it into the water bath canner. What I'm going to do first is lay down the same towel I had for the Cowboy candy. You'll see some of the spots on it. I like to do this just because it's easier to clean up. I can just grab the towel and throw it in the washing machine. Now I have my jars that have been in the oven staying warm, since again we are basically hot packing this jam. So I'm just gonna, I threw in a few extra just because I don't know exactly how much we're gonna get. I always feel like I get more than what a recipe says I'm going to. These are really hot. Just be careful if you're doing that to not burn yourself. Okay, I feel like that's pretty good spaced out. All right, we'll see how far we get with our jam. Now, let me bring you guys in a touch closer. I don't know if you guys can see this. See how there's some foam right here? I'm going to go ahead and get a metal spoon and take this out. And this is per the directions that if there's any foam on top, to go ahead and just skim it off. Alright, I got most of it, so we're going to just try it from there, but you can see that was all the foam on top. So we have our hot jars, we have our hot jams. We're going to go ahead and get it ladled in. We'll see how far we get, how many jars we get, and then go ahead and get the lid on and get them into the water bath canner. Okay, so I think I have enough for at least one more. Let me grab one more jar. I got two just in case, but we'll see what happens here. Yeah, I think one is all we're going to need, so. Like I said, it's definitely a messy job, but worth it. Because it's so messy, we want to really make sure that we get all the jam off the top. Oh, that jar is hot. And I also will clean, if needed, just kind of wipe right here on the inside as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get lids on. Same process. Oh, hello. Oh, okay, I didn't get anything on there. Okay. Same process as before. Turn. I like to tighten. We're going to get these in the water bath canner and get them processed. And I'm pretty sure it's 10 minutes, but I will double check the recipe just to verify. A lot of times, a lot of things like this are just 10 minutes because it's a half pint. All right, got my lid. Let's get this one on. All right, we're going to get these into the water bath canner. Yep. We're going to make sure that that is boiling before we put the lid on. and then process it for 10 minutes. I turned it up. It will only take 30 seconds or so to come to a boil. And then we'll take them out, set them aside like we have for the Cowboy candy, and I have heard all my lids pop already on them, so that's fantastic. They're already starting to cool down, so that's great. You know, this is all turning out really, really well today, so which I'm very grateful for. So now go ahead and get the lid on. It's still actually really hot. And then set the timer for 10 minutes. When you're following the Sure Gel, when you're doing the jams, the things that work for the jams, it's 10 minutes. If it's a jelly, it's 5, but because this is jam, we're going to do this for 10 minutes. It's been 10 minutes, so I'm going to turn it off. Again, leave it for 5, and then we'll be back to pull it all out. Okay. It's been 5 minutes, and so let me move the lid. Go ahead and lift up the jam. And go ahead and get it out. Okay, and there it is. And so I will be back in 24 hours when it cools. Kind of show you guys what it's nice and thick. Actually, hold on. So I don't have to open up a jar. I had some, that's in the bottom of the pot I was saving for my husband to try. You can see how thick it is and how it's clinging to the spoon even when it hasn't even been processed in the water bath canner. So this is going to be great for toast, biscuits, to make desserts out of, you know, whatever we want to do with it. Add it to overnight oats, anything like that. This will be fantastic. So you can see how nice and thick it is. This way I don't have to open up one. To show you, it's going to be, it's great. This worked really, really well. This is actually thicker than the blueberry lemon, and so I think next time I'm going to add the pectin to the jam, or I'm sorry, to the fruit, and let it cook in there versus adding it to the sugar like I did in that recipe. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me today in the kitchen. I was able to really knock out a lot of what I wanted to do, which is take care of the peppers, make the Cowboy candy, make the blackberry jam, and then I also, since I didn't get to the blueberries today, and just given the time, I'm going to put those back in the fridge and hold them till tomorrow, and then I'll be back in the kitchen tomorrow to make something yummy. I've got a couple ideas on what to do with it. I don't want to make any more blueberry lemon jam. It was fantastic. It's not because it doesn't taste good. We just have enough in our pantry along with apple butter, and now we're going to have blackberry jam plus all the freezer stuff that we have. So we've got quite a bit of jam to work through, and so I want to focus in on that instead of making any additional jam. And so I just want to thank you guys for hanging around. If you're new here, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind, hit the like button. That really does help me out. That'll help my videos get out to more people as I continue to work on growing this channel. And if not, that's okay too. I understand. It's not a big deal. I just like to ask and see, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.